let's go over the weird features of these things, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, this is their better idea for a carburetor, I guess. Hey guys, Dan with Kane Custom Garage, and today I thought we'd take a look at the weirdest chainsaw that they've ever made, in my opinion anyways. The Mcculloch 35 and the Super 33 is basically the same design. But yeah, these things were weird. And I mean, you know, Mcculloch was the innovator. They were ahead of their time in a lot of ways, but man, these things were just weird and hard to work on. And I sort of hated these things at first, but they're sort of growing on me. But let's go over the weird features of these things, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here it is in all its weirdness, the Mach 35. So yeah, look at this thing. Way different from any chainsaw that was out there at the time, including this radical angle. The what do you call that? What do you call that? The fully erect bar and chain. I guess that's sort of cool, and you put it down and it doesn't get in the dirt. But yeah, lots of weirdness. And so yeah, these things are gear reducted, gear drive transmission, and this thing needs it because the engine's in sideways. So yeah, that's one of the weird things is the engine, if you look at it, it's in sideways. So your starter is back here in a weird spot. And then the clutch is up in here behind this transmission, basically turning this way, and then the transmission changes at 90 degrees and then runs the bar and chain. Don't ask me why they put the motor in sideways, but they did. And then it's sort of got this little patch on the top to get to the spark plug. It's sort of cool. Got the manual oiler. That's not really weird. But what's really weird is the frickin' carburetor, or lack of a carburetor. I mean, I guess you could call it a carburetor. Let's flop this thing on its side. But yeah, look at that. They call that a carburetor. Here, hold on. So yeah, this is their better idea for a carburetor, I guess. But basically this whole thing here is the carburetor. And if you look, there's the throttle plate. It doesn't have a choke. It has a primer up here that you push to prime it. And then this, I believe, is like your fuel mixture. I moved it around while it was running, and I don't know if it made much difference, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the fuel mixture. But yeah, these things are funky. Look at that. So yeah, it really doesn't, I mean, I guess you could call it a carburetor, but it's not what you normally think of as a carburetor. It just has a throttle plate, and it's just this big flat thing that bolts on there. And then the other weird thing is the points are run by this little, right there, there's a little push rod that comes and moves the points. So I had to fiddle with that a little bit to get my spark back. Yeah, that's sort of interesting because, you know, usually the points are under the flywheel, not on the Mcculloch. They had the better idea. And this is a 35A. I can't remember what the difference between the 35 and the 35A is. Yeah, and then it has this funky flocked air filter. Goes over this whole thing, and this wire rod thing clamps it down. But yeah, just lots of weirdness. So yeah, so here's your bar oil. And then I think this is the oil for the transmission itself. It has a pretty big bucking spike on it. 1/2-inch chain. Has the cool Mcculloch logo. That's pretty cool. So, dare I try to cut a piece of wood with this thing? I won't make any promises, but yeah. Let's see if we can get it running well enough to cut some wood with it. Okay. See you there. Okay, let's see if we can get this thing to run long enough to cut some wood. Never ran one of these things before, so let's see what it does. Wow, she cuts pretty good for an old beast. A weird old beast. Later.